From the ABCs to pomp and circumstance, it all happens so quickly. And we parents are there for our children. Hi, this is Sharon Marshall Lockett, your host on Home Sweet Homework. Today we have a special guest. Today the theme of the program is parent power. You are amazingly powerful in the lives of your children. You have an amazing amount of power in the classroom and with the schools where your children attend. Today my guest is Dr. Kogee Thomas. Kogee is the former Director of Admissions from University of California, Irvine, and currently the Title VII Director with Capistrano Unified School District. Welcome, Kogee.
Oh, this is exciting. Thank you for the invitation.
Now, Kogee is such an unusual name. We need to hear where that comes from before we jump in.
Okay, it's really an American Indian name, and it means nation. So it's with the 5 civilized tribes, and that's Choctaw, Chickasaw, Cherokee, Creek, and Seminole. Not enough Indian
That was a mouthful. Very few. Now, American Indians have a PhD, so you are a rare breed. Do you know delighted that you could join us today. Can you tell us a little bit about that? You run with the Title VII, a special support program for American Indians. But what intrigues me most about your program is that you get parents to come out. Parents come to your meetings. Tell us a little bit about your secret for getting parents involved.
Oh, trying to involve them in every aspect with their children's learning, and the learning styles that they learn to learn with is unique with American Indians. But parents are the key, the strong key to education, both from kindergarten through higher education. If the parents are involved, the children will succeed. But without parents' commitment and involvement, it's really hard for a lot of low-income students.
Now, you talked about American Indians and learning, and I just want to insert that everything I learned to help language minority students and American Indian students and African American students, everything I ever learned to help those special populations made me a much better teacher to all students and a much better parent to my son, because I began to think about teaching whole child instead of teaching a subject.
Right. It's very important. If we have the learning styles down for the children, it's so much easier. And the parents become their advocate for their education. It has to be that way with parents. Parents should be involved the first day of kindergarten through graduate school. Students need that support and that help.
Now, you said something about being an advocate for a parent. Tell us what advocate means.
Advocate means that a parent needs to walk into a classroom. From kindergarten on to higher education, the parent is the key. They need to be involved.
One of the things I say is that be sure when your child's teacher sees you coming, they know you by name. They recognize you. And as a parent, I was reluctant to go in to interrupt, to question anything the teacher did.
No, today's teacher needs that supportive help. With 32 to 35 in a classroom, believe me, they are crying for the help. And if you can help in any way as tutors or as a parent, an aide, a volunteer, it's so important to that classroom. You're not only affecting your child, but you're affecting 35 different students. And that's really something you could say that you've done in life, is help the educational system. And we need the help.
You know, when I finally understood that it wasn't the teacher versus the parent, but the teacher and the parent and the child forming a team, it made a really big difference in my confidence level in approaching schools as a teacher. And the funny thing is, and I'm an educator, and I was intimidated as a parent.
And you shouldn't be, because today's education is really different than the former education that I even came through, because I didn't have computers. Now computers is part of the academics. It's not on its own. And we need to have that technology involved, because you can talk to China just pressing a button now. You can understand the world more and you can be informed more in every field you can name. It's there in the computer. So we need to really get technology down for our children.
Now, people who are listening to this undoubtedly have a computer because it's web-based radio right now. But to the parents that may not be able to afford a computer or their computer isn't quite up to speed, what advice can you give them?
There's always a way to learn, believe me. If you don't have a computer, you can book one up your library and it comes to you, and you can also, in some libraries, check the computer out. And there's always help around the corner, believe me. Even in schools, they have technology labs.
My son started college in the days just before everyone owned their own computer. And I look back and I'm almost horrified to think that I sent him to college without a computer and he had to use the computers in the system, but they were there. They were available to him. So just make sure that your children have access to a computer if you don't have one.
We call that equal education if we all are reading the same book, really, and technology is a book. You have to get to know it, to work with it, and be friendly with it, and have your children well-rounded right now. Because you can talk to China by pressing a button, you can be informed by pressing a button in any field. So you can't say you didn't know anymore, because it's right there in front of you.
At your fingertips. It's amazing. I don't even research or write the way I used to anymore.
Right.
Now, your students who were struggling in the classroom are doing well now. Tell us your secrets. What can parents do to help improve grades for their children?
Well, start with elementary. I went to UCLA and I graduated from UCLA. And I TA'd at UCLA, but I had one professor I fell over heels with because she just had education down, and that's Madeline Hunter. She said you have to have reading at the third grade level, and you'll be able to go to college. Failing at the third grade level, you're not college material. And also when you're looking at reading, you must have reading from kindergarten or even preschool. You can read to your children, you can read to the young people, and we need that in the classroom. We need oral readings there. So if you don't think you can do anything but read, go to a classroom and have a reading group so everybody can learn to read. That's so important. And math. Those are the two subject area I push hard at.
That's true, reading and math. You said if they're not doing well at third grade, they're not going to college. So for the parents whose children are struggling, they're not really great grade level readers at third grade. What do you do to accelerate them?
Well, if you read your book,
Oh, she's
you
read
have
my book.
all the little hints there that are for parents that never been printed so easily for parents to understand, because children need to start reading, and it's also reading out loud to your children that helps them form the language better. I came from a family that didn't talk English, and I found it very difficult all the way through school because I didn't have that at home at the beginning of my early years. But in later years I had it, but I had a grandmother who only knew two answers in English, yes and no.
Wow.
So it was difficult.
So with them not knowing English, they still told you stories and read to you in your native language.
Right.
And then when you picked up English, those skills transferred.
Yes, some of them did, but it was very difficult. So now I really push reading and math because I know what's important in college. One of my favorite college professor who was very hard on students, and I went to him to talk to him, what subjects should children really start learning about to make it through college? He says there's only two, English and math. I can teach them anything else, but if they come with those with sound efforts and a well background in reading and math, there's nothing they can't learn.
Now that's interesting because I was a high school teacher and we assumed that our students could read and comprehend and could do basic math, general math, when they got to us. And I very quickly as a new teacher realized that isn't true. that I had to help them even at the high school level with comprehension skills, with comprehension tasks. So I guess I'd say to parents, don't be too hard on your children. Rather be the support, the encouragement, and help take them to the next level.
Right. It's very important to have the children to be aware of what's around them, what is good for them in education. You can never open their minds up too quick. Let them have their minds, have their dreams, have their efforts to put anything they want to be in life. Because at my years of education, we only had a few choices. But today, you got the world of choices. And the children need that, and we need leaders today, and that's the tomorrow's students that are sitting in the classrooms.
Now, you brought up another subject, that because education is so different today than it was when parents went to school, when parents grew up, parents are sometimes intimidated. What do they do if they don't understand it?
Then they go to the parent meetings. Sometimes you can form your own group of parents to support each other. Somebody may be good in math. Somebody may be good in art. Somebody may be good in English. You form your own teams. Parents can learn along with the students. There's never a day a person can't learn something new every day.
And if you don't, you get bored with life.
Right.
It's interesting, if you are bored, then something's going on. You're not learning and growing and reaching out. Other advice you would give to parents?
Well, you want your children to be better than you. All parents want that.
Don't we all?
They want them to have bigger dreams. You're the starting point for a parent. You give them that better dream. You give them that life leading up to what they're going to be, the best they're going to be, and how they can easily come by and work with other people. Team efforts are the best efforts for children, to learn the team efforts. I think baseball, through basketball, all the team sports are very important in education because you're learning to build a team. But today, a team effort even goes into the academics. I've seen that through my nephews when they've been to college, and my nieces, that if they form teams, they get through college much easier and faster.
And now, one of the number one questions that I hear from parents is, should I let them study with friends? And here you say, form teams. Tell us about, should they study with friends?
Yes, because especially Native American Indians, they're learning stars by touch, taste, feeling, and experience. You can't touch, taste, and feel an experience without a team effort. That's what it takes.
Interesting, there are some great studies that say the difference, not between admission to college, but between getting from admission to graduation in college, and the difference between graduating from college and advancing on the job is your ability to form a support community around yourself. So definitely let your children study with their friends.
It's very important because once they learn the subject, if it doesn't come out of their mouth, they don't retain it as well. And if it comes out of their mouth and they're learning through their ears from somebody else's ideas, that's building their own self-esteem and also building themselves a community around them.
Some of the parents listening to us today are frustrated because they feel so alone. So how do they get started? How do they create a support community for themselves? When their kids were little, they had MOPS. As they grew up, they had the little support groups. But the further they go in education, the harder it is to find help for whatever your children are struggling with. So,
well, there's two efforts you can do. One, approaching the teacher in the classroom. Two is joining the PTA. I finally realized that the PTA does a lot of good. And also they learn from each other. The parents discuss. Even outside the PTA meetings, they have found another parent who has the same problem they have maybe. And they form a team. So it's very good. My niece is the PTA president. And she's learned so much that she's now going back and trying to get her teacher's credential.
Now, I don't usually plug Home Sweet Homework that directly, but you mentioned something that I do want to piggyback on. Copies of Home Sweet Homework are available in quantity prices to PTAs that want to use them as fundraisers.
Oh,
So
yes.
if you're struggling, you're not alone. Other parents are struggling. We will do whatever we can to help you out.
Yeah, Home Sweet Homework is the best thing ever written for parents because nothing has been written like this, so clear for parents to understand the educational system within their child. That book does it all. I was always looking for a book like that, and never did I see it so clearly printed out, so easily read, so easily directed when you're having a problem. It's just the greatest book in the world in my book.
Ah, thank you, thank you. You have such an amazingly successful parent program. How did that happen? What are the keys to success?
Well, you feel the needs of the parents and the child, and you encourage them, and you have speakers come in, and that was important in my program, that parents understood that they're an integral part of the educational system. We leave them out, and that's too much to leave out. That's too much of life for that child to leave out a parent. So parents are important.
Any advice for these parents who are listening?
Well, to me, run to the next bookstore and buy the book because if your children are struggling, this is the book that will help you. And get involved with somebody. Tell everybody about the book. Once you read it, pass it on. Make sure your library has the book so a parent can even just check it out if they don't want to purchase it. And it will help families and students and the educational system if we all had this book.
Your check will be in the mail. Now, you've run summer programs, just all kinds of support efforts for students. You have tutorials at your school. What resources are available to help parents who are struggling?
Well, the resources are important. Number one is the PTA. Also, we have different programs like English as a second language. They have their own parent group. Indian Education has their parent group. There's a group for everybody. You know, if you work at it and you call for it, either at the district offices or at the school sites, find out what's happening in education in your own system. If it's elementary, middle school, or high school. And middle school, oh, they need the help from a parent more than anything. It's so important to get involved at the elementary level, but keep involved even in middle school, even in high school, and graduate school too.
You know, it's interesting. I was a high school teacher, and when I would call home because I was having a problem with a student, I can't tell you how often when the parent answered, the response was, "Oh, I don't know what's gotten into him this year. You know, I thought when he got to high school I could go back to work and he'd be okay." So often parents think when they get to high school they're home free, but high school is a volatile time in the lives of your children. And I was a working mom, so I'm not saying don't work, but keep on top of what's going on with your children every step of the way. They desperately need you.
And one secret that you've put your hand on is for a student to exceed all the way from kindergarten through graduate school. And I'm going to whisper that secret so you remember it. Homework. I hope you heard me. Homework.
We have students who say, "I hate homework. When I get out of school, I won't have to do homework." And I always laugh and say, when you get out of school, everything is homework.
Absolutely.
It's a part of life. Well, Kogee, thank you so very much for being with us today. You've given our parents some wisdom.
Well, this is exciting because you have such a great book out there for parents. Parents can't say, well, I don't know where to go anymore. The schools are a starting point, and your child's the starting point, that you have to lead them along the educational system, and you have to start understanding it more, too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm a firm advocate in acceleration, in not remediation, not trying to fix what's wrong with students, but to challenge them to go to the next level, to do better, to do bigger, to try something new. Dr. Kogee talked about acceleration, and she talked about making sure that parents were involved to help children. So I want to give you my 3 top tools for accelerating your children's achievement. They're easy to implement. Number one is choral reading with your child every day, 15 minutes a day. Within 1 month, if you do nothing more than choral read, that's read the same thing aloud together, you will see a major improvement in both their speed and their comprehension. Kogee talked about how important reading is and how important it is at young ages to make sure your children are at grade level, and choral reading is your key. So tip number one is choral read with your children 15 minutes a day, every day. Tip number two is have them teach it to you. Trade places. Don't try to teach them, because we learn when we process information well enough to teach it to someone else. So when you read your tiny children a children's story, after you finish the story, say, now you tell the story. You tell it back to me. Tell me about Toad and Frog. Tell me about Alexander and the terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. Have them retell the story. Have them teach it to you. That skill you can start when they're teeny tiny, because they love to tell stories. And you can carry that through high school. Teach me what you learned today. Very powerful concept. And finally, point number three, I want to piggyback on something that Dr. Kogee said. Yes, let your children study with friends. Yes, encourage them to create a support community around themselves. Yes, encourage them to be part of a group. They learn better when they study with friends. Something else I want to look at with you tonight is resources. What do you do when you need help? Where do you go for help? Well, the first stop for help when you're shopping for help is the classroom teacher. I have a gal who runs a tutorial program. She sends notices home to parents when progress reports go out. She says, feed them when they're hungry. When you get those grades and they're not up to par, they're not what you'd like them to be, you're open to tutorials. Well, many schools have tutorials. My company helps schools set up tutorials. Start with your classroom teacher. What does their school offer to support your children? From there, look at the school office, look at the district office, look at your local library. Libraries have wonderful support. Sometimes they even have tutors there that are free. Look at internet. Be wise with internet resources, just like you would with anything else, but you can find tremendous help on internet for your children with their homework. Look at your community organizations. Neighborhood colleges and universities often have tutorials, and they're free. So there is a wealth of resources out there for you. And while you're thinking of resources, look at your neighbors. It helps sometimes when there are a lot of children living in the same area and you're all working and you're all busy, to set up a homework center so that Monday night's homework is done at your home and Tuesday night all the children study in someone else's home nearby. That way you have a little break, and that way your children have someone to bounce their ideas off of. There is a wealth of resources out there. You don't have to do it alone. You don't have to be alone. Take a look at what's available in your community. Well, Dr. Kogee kept quoting a very famous woman in education circles. Her name is Madeline Hunter. She was a dynamic teacher, a dynamic author, and she taught a lot of us how to write the perfect lesson. So I'd like to close today's session with a little quote from the one, the only Madeline Hunter. You've probably heard this one before, but I bet you didn't know it came from her. She says, children don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. That's true in the classroom. That's true for teachers. That's also true in parenting. They don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. learn. One of the toughest things about parenting and homework is that you feel so alone. It seems like when you face a problem, no one else has the same problem. Although I was an educator, there were times when my son's teachers and counselors intimidated me. If you have a specific question, if you want email pointers, consider joining our subscription series. You will have unlimited internet and email access to our team of educators who will answer your specific questions about your children and learning. Visit my website, homesweethomework.com, sign up for the mailing list, and you'll instantly receive a copy of Follow the College Prep Road, telling you what your children need to do at each grade level to make sure they're on track for success in life. Go to homesweethomework.com, click Order Now, and you can order your copy of the book, of an audio book, of special tapes, or join the subscription series. By the way, tell your children's teachers to visit score-ed.com. Our staff works with schools to help them set up support programs to make sure that every student succeeds. Until then, remember, even a kindergartner remembers the song Pomp and Circumstance. Give your children roots, teach them to fly, and give them wings. This is Sharon Marshall Lockett, homesweethomework.com. Thank you for joining us.
I know my ABCs. Next time